There is a kind of silence that settles deep inside a home when someone grows old alone. We rarely notice it. The quiet kitchen, the untouched chair, the prayers whispered into empty rooms while the rest of the world keeps moving. Yet God never turns away from the elderly. In fact, Scripture reveals something shocking about those who suffer loneliness in old age. Today, we are going to uncover what many Christians have completely overlooked. Before we begin, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment saying, "God remembers me." May the Lord bless every person who stays until the end of this message. Number 1, the forgotten prayer warriors. There are elderly Christians sitting alone tonight whose prayers are still protecting people who barely remember their names. That may sound shocking, but Scripture shows us again and again that some of the strongest spiritual battles are fought quietly, behind closed doors, far from church stages and public attention. While the world sees weakness in old age, God often sees spiritual authority. Think about this for a moment. How many times have we survived situations we never even saw coming? How many disasters were delayed? How many temptations lost their power because somewhere an aging mother, a grandfather, or a widow whispered our names before God late into the night? Many elderly believers live alone now, but heaven still listens when they pray. The painful part is that many of them feel forgotten. Their phones stay silent. Their homes grow quiet. Some begin to wonder if their lives still matter anymore. Yet the Bible tells us in James 5:16 that the prayer of a righteous person is powerful and effective. Not was powerful, is powerful. And maybe that is the mystery most people miss. Some lonely elderly Christians are carrying more spiritual weight than entire crowds of younger believers who are constantly surrounded by noise. Number 2, God never retires his people. One of the cruelest lies many elderly Christians believe is that their purpose ended years ago. The world teaches us that aging means becoming less useful, less important, less seen. After retirement, after sickness, after the children move away, many begin to feel like they are simply waiting for life to end quietly. But that is not how God works. Scripture is filled with people God used late in life. Moses was 80 when God called him to lead a nation. Caleb was old when he asked for his mountain. Anna spent her final years worshiping in the temple until she witnessed the Messiah with her own eyes. Heaven never treated old age like a limitation, and maybe that is why the enemy attacks elderly believers so fiercely with loneliness and discouragement. If he can convince them they no longer matter, he can silence wisdom, prayer, and faith that still carry enormous spiritual power. Some elderly Christians live alone now with aching bodies and quiet homes. But inside them are decades of testimony, endurance, and lessons learned through suffering. God does not look at them and see expiration. He sees preparation. He sees survivors who still have assignments left to complete before their journey is over. Number 3, loneliness changes the soul. Most people think loneliness is just an emotion, a quiet sadness, an empty feeling that comes and goes. But for many elderly Christians living alone, loneliness slowly becomes something deeper. It changes the atmosphere of an entire life. A house can stay perfectly clean while still feeling unbearably empty. The television stays on for background noise. Old photographs become companions. Some elderly believers begin repeating stories not because they forgot they already shared them, but because they miss the feeling of being heard. That kind of silence can wear down even the strongest heart. And yet, this is where something unexpected happens. Many elderly Christians who suffer deep loneliness begin clinging to God with a kind of faith younger generations rarely understand. When human comfort disappears, prayer becomes personal. Scripture becomes oxygen. Worship becomes survival. Psalm 34 says that the Lord is close to the brokenhearted. Not distant, close. Some of the elderly people the world overlooks may actually be experiencing a deeper intimacy with God than those constantly surrounded by distractions and noise. But here is the uncomfortable question. While they are drawing closer to heaven, where are we? Are we becoming so busy with our own lives that we no longer notice the people silently carrying emotional pain right beside us? Number 4, the church stopped looking. There was a time when elderly believers stood at the center of many churches. They prayed over families. They welcomed strangers at the doors. They carried testimonies that strengthened entire congregations. But slowly, something changed. Modern churches became louder, faster, younger, and many elderly Christians quietly disappeared into the background without anyone realizing it. Some now sit at home watching church through screens instead of sitting beside people who once called them family. Week after week passes without a visit, without a call, without someone noticing their empty seat. Not because believers became evil, but because distraction became normal. What makes this painful is that Scripture never treated care for the elderly as optional. In James 1:27, pure religion is connected to caring for the vulnerable. Not popularity, not performance, care. Real love is proven by who we refuse to forget. And maybe that is the warning hidden inside this conversation. A church can grow in numbers while shrinking in compassion. We can fill buildings with worship music, while elderly believers cry quietly in isolation only a few streets away. The question is no longer whether lonely seniors exist. The question is whether we have become too busy to see them standing right in front of us. Number 5, the wisdom we ignore. It is strange how quickly society dismisses people who have already survived the very battles we are struggling to understand. We spend hours listening to strangers online, searching for advice about marriage, suffering, faith, anxiety, and purpose. While many elderly Christians sit quietly nearby, carrying decades of lived wisdom no one asks for anymore. An older believer may know what it feels like to lose everything and still remain faithful to God. They may have survived grief, poverty, betrayal, sickness, and seasons where prayer was all they had left. That kind of wisdom cannot be learned in a motivational video. It is carved slowly through years of endurance. The tragedy is that many elderly people stop sharing because they sense nobody wants to listen. Their stories remain trapped inside silent living rooms, while younger generations repeat avoidable mistakes. We chase information, but ignore understanding. Scripture says in Job 12:12 that wisdom belongs to the aged, and understanding comes with long life. Yet modern culture rewards speed more than depth. We admire confidence while overlooking experience. And maybe this is why so many people today feel spiritually lost. We disconnected ourselves from the very voices God intended to help guide us through life. Number 6, heaven still sees them. One of the hardest parts of growing old alone is feeling invisible. Days begin to blur together. Fewer visitors come by. Conversations become shorter. Sometimes entire weeks pass without anyone truly asking how an elderly person is doing. Little by little, many begin to feel erased from the world around them. But invisibility on earth does not mean invisibility in heaven. In Isaiah 46:4, God says, "Even to your old age and gray hairs, I am he who will sustain you." That is not empty comfort. It is a promise from a God who does not abandon people when society loses interest in them. While others move on, God remains present. There are elderly Christians reading their Bibles alone every morning, not because life is easy, but because Scripture became their companion. Some pray through tears nobody sees. Some worship quietly in rooms filled with old memories and silence. And even when nobody calls, heaven still listens. This reveals something deeply uncomfortable about our culture. We celebrate people when they are productive, energetic, and useful to us. But God values people differently. He does not measure worth by age, popularity, or physical strength. And maybe that is why some lonely elderly believers are far closer to the heart of God than anyone realizes. Number 7, the enemy wants them isolated. Not every battle in life is physical. Some battles are fought through discouragement, silence, and emotional exhaustion. And one of the enemy's most effective strategies against elderly Christians is isolation. Because isolated people become easier to wound. When an elderly believer spends too many years alone, dangerous thoughts slowly begin to appear. Thoughts like, nobody needs me anymore. Nobody would notice if I disappeared. My best years are behind me. Those lies may sound small at first, but over time they can crush the human spirit. That is why loneliness is not just emotional, it is spiritual. The enemy understands that elderly Christians often carry deep faith, wisdom, and powerful prayer lives developed over decades of walking with God. If isolation can weaken their hope, it can also silence spiritual strength that still impacts families and future generations. But Scripture repeatedly reminds us that God stays close to those who suffer. Psalm 147 says, "He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds." Even in silent homes and empty rooms, God has not abandoned them. And maybe this should wake us up. Some elderly people are not asking for wealth or attention. They simply need presence, a conversation, a visit, a reminder that they are still loved, still seen, and still deeply valuable in the eyes of God. If there is one truth we should carry with us after today, it is this: God never forgets the elderly, even when the world does. Their prayers still matter, their wisdom still carries power, and their purpose did not disappear with age. And if this message opened your eyes, the next video on your screen may speak directly to your heart because it reveals the painful signs that appear when a relationship is moving outside of God's will, and why so many people ignore them until it is too late. Before you go, like this video, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. May the peace of Christ guide your heart, strengthen your faith, and remind you that you are never alone. God bless you, and I will see you in the next video.